Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Politics Lab on YouTube. My name is Bill Muck. I'm a professor of political science at North Central College, and I'm joined, as always, by my colleague and best friend, Dr. Phil Barker. He's the guy with all the banjos behind him. How you doing, Phil?
I'm good, Bill. How are you? Happy Monday.
It is a good Monday. So I don't know if it's a good Monday. It's a Monday. So snow in here. We've gotten snow for like the last 6 weeks. So
I know. Snow. Tom Brady won another Super Bowl. It's Monday. It's not a great day.
no, that's true. It's a bad Monday. We're here to talk about the potential denial of Donald Trump intelligence briefings. So Joe Biden was asked the other day whether he thought it was appropriate for Donald Trump to get intelligence briefings as a former president, which is a normal, common thing. And he described Trump as erratic and said it was not a good idea. So this kind of raises some interesting questions, Phil. So what do we think? Should Donald Trump be getting these briefings? Should he not be getting these briefings? What's the right answer?
So I, I think the answer is that I think there's multiple ways to come at this. I think one is that I think Joe Biden's right. Like Donald Trump has demonstrated throughout his 4 years in power, what his meetings with Russians, all sorts of other stuff. There's lots of reasons to be concerned. I think that if he were not president, he would not get a security clearance. He's, hundreds of billions of dollars in debt. He's got all sorts of, shady connections around the world. So I think, if you're just analyzing him as a person, I think it makes sense that we wouldn't want him to have access to the most top secret things that there's access to. So I think there's, I think Biden's got a point. But even beyond that, there's this bigger picture, which is, it's not even necessarily a Trump thing. I don't really see why former presidents should have access to this intelligence. It seems like a reasonable thing to say when you're not president anymore, you no longer need to have access to these things. And so you no longer have access to it. You become a need to know basis as well. The logic behind it is that it has always been traditional. It's been a courtesy. And the other part is part of the logic behind why former presidents have access to this stuff is that then the current president can reach out to them for advice. And I think, fine, if that's the case, and Joe Biden is saying, I'm never going to reach out to Donald Trump for advice, then it makes sense. But that could also be done on a need-to-know basis, right? If Joe Biden at some point wants to talk to Barack Obama, then Barack Obama can be briefed on that specific thing. So my whole take is we should do away with this tradition. I don't think former presidents should necessarily have it. And if Donald Trump's the sort of motivation for doing that, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the counter argument, and I think the counter argument is wrong, would be that this is going against precedent, right? We've always done this with presidents, and it's useful for the current president to be able to reach out to that small group of ex-presidents for their insight on issues. But like you said, that's not going to happen with Donald Trump. There is zero chance that Joe Biden will ever reach out on any issue to Donald Trump. So the upside of him having that intelligence is zero. The downside is dramatic, right? I mean, you think about just during his presidency, Donald Trump, he used intelligence for political purposes on a couple of occasions. I think the first impeachment during the Mueller, he was using this as weapons, weaponizing the intelligence. So that's terrible. You mentioned he released some intelligence when the Russians were in the room. So there's all downside and no upside. I mean, the precedent argument I sort of get, but Donald Trump is extraordinary. He's not a normal president. He doesn't follow the norms or the rules. And I think in those moments, you have to say it is not in the country's interest to chance getting that information out. And, Donald Trump, no, sorry. I guess Biden isn't going to make the decision himself. He's going to allow his intelligence community to make that, although he does have the ability to ban Trump if he wanted. And we should point out Trump has done that. John Brennan, he cut off John Brennan. He cut off, I think, a couple individuals' intelligence for spite, basically. So I don't see any reason why Donald Trump in particular should get this information.
Yeah, I mean, this is, when we talk about norms and precedents and whatnot, I mean, the danger is that this will be used in the future, by a Republican to cut off Joe Biden or Barack Obama. And that, again, for me, that's a precedent that I'm okay with, right? Like that's not that big of a deal. I think that's totally fine. So the idea of the norm shifting or setting a different precedent doesn't bother me so much. I do think that this is an example where it probably we're in partly in this awkward situation because it shouldn't be left up to Joe Biden. This should be, there should be some sort of legal change or whatever. It shouldn't just be on the whim of Joe Biden that he's going to cut off Donald Trump. I mean, there should be some level of security clearance, some sort of, process, whether you're a former president or not, if you can't qualify for intelligence or so, the idea that Joe Biden, it just opens that he's the one making the call, opens this up to, this argument about partisanship and to kind of further divide us and whatnot. So in some way, institutionalizing it would be good. And coming up with protocols, again, I think what Donald Trump revealed in his 4 years is that we were a faith-based political system, right? There was lots of stuff in which like, this is just going to work well because it's always worked well and we're going to have faith that it's going to keep working well. And Donald Trump pointed out where that, he kind of pushed the limits of that in lots of places where, maybe we shouldn't just have faith. Maybe we should actually have some rules and some laws and some standards and some, actual, legal processes in place that allow this to be clearer. And so, I mean, I think you're exactly right. I think what's the worst case scenario in your mind? Do you like if Donald Trump, or, it could be, maybe if you like Donald Trump, it's helpful to think of, some other sort of villainous person, right? Like just because they've been president doesn't mean they should have access to information. I mean, what could you imagine happening if Donald Trump or some other former president has access to this stuff?
Well, Donald Trump in particular, the guy owes $400 million, right? And I mean, that he would either sell the information or release that information, or somebody else would dupe him out of the information. I mean, that's right. The other thing to think about. It's not, we could talk about witting or unwitting release of that information. I would trust Donald Trump zero to keep important information. Now, the one good thing is that I think he would be unlikely to continue to take these briefings. He didn't take them while in office too often, but that's all the more reason for preventing him when he's out of office, because why does he want that information? What could he use it for? No, I just see this as all downside, no upside. I'm not even sure that ex-presidents offer that great of advice. I teach a course on the Cuban Missile Crisis, and one of the examples during the Cuban Missile Crisis, Kennedy reached out to Eisenhower, and Eisenhower's advice was you should start the bombing campaign, right? Which, I think like that's terrible advice. It's one thing if you're in the office and you're surrounded by people who have the best information. Ex-presidents don't always have the best information. So I think there's a lot of reasons for saying this is no big deal. Cut the guy off and like you said, revisit the whole policy.
I think that's a fantastic point. I mean, ideally, the people that the president should be turning to for advice are his, top advisors, right? This is the reason why you nominate someone to be the Secretary of Defense and Secretary of State, and why you have career individuals who know their stuff. And so it's not that the president has a lack of good advice from people around them. I think the idea of reaching out to someone who can, relate to the stress of the presidency is great, right? But that seems like hey, let's get together and have a beer and talk about how hard this is, not I'm trying to decide what to do about Iran or North Korea and I need your advice. If that's what you need, if you need policy advice, then talk to the people who you've chosen or who have moved up in the ranks, because they are experts on that. They are going to give better advice than Barack Obama or Donald Trump or whoever. And so I think that's an excellent point. It's not like Joe Biden is alone on an island trying to figure this out. He's surrounded by really smart, really well qualified, really well informed people.
What are the odds? Like, what are the percentages that Donald Trump, if he was to get this information, would do something stupid or dangerous? Is it 100%, or is it? I think it's got to be pretty close to 100% in terms of either he releases the information, he sells the information, or he gets, somebody gets it out of him. I don't know. What do you think?
It's a good question. I kind of weigh the counterbalancing is the fact that he could, profit or benefit himself off of this information, and the type of person he is leans towards, of course, he's going to use it to his own advantage. But you have to weigh that against the fact that when president, he didn't take one of these briefings for years, and the odds, like the sort of laziness is harsh, but it's probably actually the right term. Like the extent to which he doesn't care and he's not willing to actually do the work also counterbalances that. So, I think the odds that it would be in some way misused are really high. The odds that something really significant would be misused, I think, are maybe lower. But
that's a good distinction.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, we should wrap up on that point. Everybody tune in on Wednesday for the podcast. I think we're looking potentially to discuss some foreign policy issues. I guess, Phil, there's an impeachment going on this week. I guess.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Trump,
okay.
I guess, got impeached again.
Oh,
So
how about that?
we'll break it all down. Lots of big things going on. So I'll see you then, Phil.
All right, bye, Bill.